So my name is Peter Poole, but when I'm performing, I go by DJ Allgood. And I'm originally from Hamilton, New Zealand, where I was the second heaviest baby born in the hospital that year. Yeah, true story, 12 pounds. My family immigrated to Canada when I was 8 years old. My mom's from Fiji. Both my brothers are born in Fiji. And my dad's what you might say in New Zealand, you'd say a Pakeha, which is like a white European settler of New Zealand. Actually, my dad was working for Radio Fiji when he met my mom, so it's just one of these crazy circumstances of radio frequencies and broadcasting brought me here today. So my dad, he was actually a bit of celebrity in Fiji when he met my mom. He's like the Alex Trebek of Jeopardy. He hosted a show called, and he was known as the Quizmaster anyhow. When we moved to Canada, he was in journalism, not so much radio broadcast, but through newspapers. But he definitely fostered in me a deep appreciation for listening. Yeah, so that might be listening to records at home, or cassette tapes, or listening to what's coming through the airwaves on the radio, like I was doing on my way here today. Yeah. What I'd say is something I'm really proud of right now is that I'm the Canadian DMC DJ national champion for 2020, which means I got to represent the country in the international finals. And so that was something I'm really quite proud of. If you don't know what battle DJing is, I could compare it to, okay, so there's bartending, and then there's flair bartenders, and they're the guys and girls that throw the bottles around and show off. So battle DJing is like DJing, but showing off, doing tricks and being technical, scratching and manipulating the records in the spirit of an instrument, and that's why it's called turntablism, which is using the turntable like an instrument. So actually, one of my earliest memories was on Christmas when I was 4 years old, and I received a portable turntable, not unlike this one, and I was given some records along with it. And the record that I still have to this day, and it's still imprinted in my memory, is Tijuana Taxi by Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. I would play that nonstop on repeat. So my family came to Canada from New Zealand, actually due in part to immigration laws. Because my mom and both my brothers were Fijian born, they weren't allowed to stay in New Zealand because we didn't use the proper process of immigrating to New Zealand. We just kind of showed up, and that's where I was born. Our first couple of years in Canada were up in northern BC, in Terrace, BC, which you can imagine was a bit of a culture shock from the warm, sunny South Pacific to the frozen north. I've since been back to New Zealand a few times. I went back to New Zealand to go to university, actually, to become a school teacher. One of the coolest things about becoming a teacher in New Zealand is that you have to learn the language of Maori, the native language of New Zealand. If you're a teacher, it's just non-negotiable. You have to learn it. And so for me, the language that I'm most into preserving is the language of turntablism, which is just that, using the vinyl based DJ and using the turntable like an instrument. Just like there's the language of Maori is at risk of being lost if we don't practice it, right? Same thing goes with turntablism. There's a whole bunch of different ways to share music these days, and it's an art form that's at risk of being lost. So something I'm really passionate about is preserving the language of turntablism. And so my life work is actually a project called the Turn Temple. It's a converted U-Haul truck with a DJ studio in the back. So I go around to music festivals and do professional development with DJs. I do workshops for newbies and beginners, and let people in the booth and let them try the stuff out. Yeah, it's and I also do outreach for at-risk youth. It's pretty cool to have a truck loaded with turntables just roll up into the parking lot just as the kids are getting out of school. It's the sort of thing that I wish existed when I was a kid. I would have showed up for that for sure. So I grew up in Nanaimo from the time I was 8 years old, and when you're a teenager in Nanaimo, you know, it's there's not necessarily a ton of options of things to do. And so when I was just out of high school, we'd do this thing where we'd like rent a hall and rent some speakers and make a mixtape, a mixed cassette tape, and just put it on the speakers and just have a party. We called them soul parties back in the day. And so I would consider those some of my formative DJ experiences, which is, you know, creating a mix, curating a musical experience that takes people on a little journey. And so when I moved back to New Zealand to go to university there, I did my first ever DJ battle. This was back in '98 in a DMC New Zealand battle, and I was terrible. I did not place in the top 8. And you know, I did my second battle in New Zealand a couple months later, and I was really terrible then too. Yeah. And so when I moved back to Canada, I put in some work, and in 2004 I came runner-up in Vancouver. And once I had that thrill of practicing hard at something and feeling proud of it, and you know, presenting it to judges on that sort of stage with everybody looking at you, I was just hooked. And so that started a long series of always being the bridesmaid, so to speak. I've been runner-up in Canada 3 times. Been runner-up in Calgary, been runner-up in Vancouver, runner-up in Kelowna. So, of course, I was really happy when I finally made it through to the national finals and I got to represent Canada. But probably wasn't the best timing because there was COVID lockdown. So there's a time when typically when a DJ wins the nationals, they go on tour across the country and they show off what it is that their thesis of DJing. So just as things are lifting, I'm really super excited to be getting out and playing again, and I'm sure the audience is as receptive as I am enthusiastic. So yeah, there it is. So really, my DJ career kicked off, like I got my first set of turntables in '98 when I was living in New Zealand. And, owning turntables takes it from dabbling in something to actually focus, having the equipment and learning how to use it. And New Zealand's a great place to do that because New Zealand is so far removed from everything. It's, from Vancouver, it's actually the longest flight that you can take. It's on the complete opposite side of the planet. And because of this, New Zealand doesn't get a ton of touring bands, right? Touring musicians. There's a great local music scene, but in terms of getting large acts, it just doesn't happen as much. But there is a really strong support of DJ culture, right? It's not as difficult for a DJ to show up with a bag of records or these days a digital crate. But in New Zealand in particular, yeah, that was a thing. The trip to the record store was a spiritual experience, because that truly was the portal for listening to new music, to breaking new music, and for sharing new music. Yeah, crazily enough, the digital software that I use now, digitally controlled turntables, it was invented in New Zealand, and I'm pretty sure that's out of necessity, right? Because you're paying $40 for one song on a record, and you need 2 copies to really mess with it. So. Yeah, I definitely, being from New Zealand, has had a huge influence on my DJing. I mean, and I guess everybody can take it back to Jamaica, right? For whatever reason, everything that we enjoy in DJ culture with the big speakers and using 2 turntables and toasting on a microphone, it all comes from Jamaica ultimately. And New Zealand is it's like number 2 or 3 in terms of world reggae music sales. Just that speaks to it too. Is it's a heavy. It's island culture, right? There's all kinds of Polynesians, Melanesians, Micronesians, Samoans, Tongans, Fijians, Indians, Maori, Pakeha, all down there in one big mixing pot. I don't know if I should even admit to what my first DJ name was actually Dr. Pepper. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. Well, because my name's Peter Poole, and there's the P in it. There's the alliteration. But one day I just had this epiphany that my DJ name is going to be All Good, because there's a few reasons behind that. In one way, I think out of any genre of music, there's going to be some of it that's good. And it's my job as a DJ to curate that and to find out that little bit and put together a set that's all good. Another way of looking at it, it could be a bit of a Buddhist philosophy of if you're happy where you are right now, then everything leading up to this moment makes it good, right? So no matter what your experience is, where you came from, your ups and downs, your highs and lows. So you'll be seeing me do a beat juggle, which is using 2 copies of the same song on 2 turntables and going back and forth using the crossfader. The first juggle I'm going to show you is using a song by a young producer actually from Courtney. He goes by Obnoxious. His name's Aubrey Brass. First Nations guy, he's like 23, and he is, I'm just saying, watch this space. The second juggle I'm doing is a beatbox, and that's with hip-hop legend from Vancouver, MC Emotions, who is known to many as the Renaissance man of hip-hop. He's one of these guys that's good at graffiti, good at b-boy dancing, good on the mic, and yeah, he also is a master of that fifth element, the beatbox. So listen for that.
There she goes again. There she goes again. There she goes again. There she goes again. The dope, the dope is. There she goes again. The dope, the dope is. Like a little ball inside the spray can. I wrote graffiti on the bus.
If we can write love letters and graffiti, I can be the only one to homeschooling classics. Dope on glass.
Like a little ball inside the spray can, providing 3 coats for both child, woman, and man. That's what they want, pushing that real hip hop up to the front. Then you gotta get with it, and you'll never forget it. Yes, I bought the best. Now count them all.